I am. Let me explain to you why. Two reasons. The first is, today we were pleased to see a bipartisan majority come together in the House of Representatives to support Trade Promotion Authority. There were many people in this room rightly skeptical, as recently as 2 or 3 months ago, about whether or not Democrats and Republicans would be able to come together on such a significant legislative priority of the president's, but also on a policy issue that I think everybody acknowledges is really complicated and politically fraught. But we're obviously gratified that we were able to advance that piece of legislation with bipartisan support. I would also note that we had 28 House Democrats who voted for that bill. That significantly overperforms expectations. Again, there was a lot of skepticism about how much Democratic support the president would succeed in building. And getting the support of 28 House Democrats is a good sign of the kind of bipartisan majority that the president was seeking to build. Now, at the same time, as many of you have also written about already, I also feel a little like Yogi Berra. I'm tempted to walk out here and say that it's deja vu all over again. Many of you who are frequent visitors of this briefing room will recall back on May 12th, I walked out here prepared to answer your questions about how the Democratic leader of a body of Congress had handed the president a substantial legislative defeat on a significant policy priority that the president had identified. And I'm walking out here on June 12th, prepared to answer your questions about your perception that the Democratic leader of a body of Congress has handed the president a legislative defeat on a priority. At the time, you recall that I colorfully described the situation as a legislative procedural SNAFU. And to the surprise of very few, another procedural SNAFU has emerged. These kinds of entanglements are endemic to the House of Representatives. And I say that as somebody who does not have a lot of experience in watching the floor of the House. But the president is determined, and I think as was evident from his visit to Capitol Hill this morning, to build a bipartisan majority to make sure that we're living up to our commitment as Democrats to fight for middle-class families. That's the reason the president is in this office. As the president pointed out rather forcefully in the Democratic caucus today, he wasn't elected by the Chamber of Commerce. He wasn't endorsed by the NFIB. The president is the president of the United States today because of his commitment to fight for working families and to expand economic opportunity for middle-class families. That's the reason he got this job in the first place. That's the reason he was reelected into this office 3 years ago. And it's what he's going to continue to keep at the top of his agenda for the next 18 months. And if we're going to walk the walk when it comes to those progressive values, then it's going to be important for Democrats and Republicans to come together around trade adjustment assistance. This is a program that will lapse on September 30th. That's a problem because Republicans have traditionally opposed trade adjustment assistance, and as everybody knows, Republicans enjoy significant majorities in both the House and the Senate. So if Democrats want to make sure that we're looking out for the interests of middle-class families, we need to make sure that that trade adjustment assistance doesn't lapse. The good news is we're not just going to extend the program, we're going to significantly expand it. The proposal that's before the House right now would nearly double that program in size. And according to an analysis that's been put up by the White House today, this is actually a program that will benefit 100,000 American workers each year for the next 6 years. That is a substantial benefit to middle-class families that are willing to go and make sure that they can get the training and skills that they need to go and compete for good middle-class jobs. That's always been at the top of the president's domestic policy-making agenda. It is today, and we're going to continue to make that case in the House to build a bipartisan majority in the House for that legislation. That was a slightly longer wind-up than I intended, but why don't we go to your questions now?